This conference will now be recorded.
Existence for over 30 years and meeting at the rack for just about all of that time in the same room, room 22. We have paid $500 a year for the last several years to have access to room 22 on Wednesdays. The first Wednesday of the month is our business meeting, and the other Wednesdays are work days, where we do things like this. Just indulge me for a moment. This quilt will end up going to a veteran here in town, or to the Quilts of Valor, which is a national group bringing quilts to veterans. Quilts like this have gone to children at the Assurance Home, at CASA, to displaced families, to Habitat for Humanity. It's a major part of our existence. Quilting is a communal activity, not only when you're doing it, but what you hope happens to it afterward. So we've come up against this dilemma of the new rates, which I believe many people have. We simply cannot pay $40 an hour and do what we do. So we're asking for some sort of new consideration. Can we be considered as something besides a club? Can the room, can we use the room fewer days, less time? Of course, we could do that, but again, that kind of comes back and is detrimental to the communal part of it. We are a 501c3. I think our budget is in your information. You can see that it's not large, and most of what is there is kept as seed money for the quilt show that we put on every 2 years. So other than that, I'd certainly be open for questions. If you have any notions, things that we should go back and look at. Right now, all we can do is find a new home. And that will be a lot of moving of stuff and gnashing of teeth. And we just feel that we are the poster children, really, for the RAC. We do exactly what the mission statement says the RAC is for. We're social, we're bringing older members of the community in. We'd be happy to figure out how to work with kids if that's a new direction that we're including at the RAC. We're absolutely interested in our community and giving back. Most of us have been here for a long time, paying taxes and doing stuff and coming to city council meetings. We really would like to stay put, and we really need your assistance in making that happen.
Right. Well, thank you. And I think there are some options.
Would you like to?
Yes,
Give a little background? I'm going to try to figure out where the standards sit. Or
I think the camera likes you standing right here.
You're right there in the back?
Yeah. Back of your
I'll
head.
borrow
Really
Jim's
good.
seat right now.
Yeah.
Let me start with that I can appreciate exactly what's being said and everything. When you look at what the if you were to look at their website and everything with where they're at, about 2 years ago, I think it's been a while since you've updated your website, but about 2 years ago, you were about 120 members, and they charge a membership fee of $20 per member in order to be a member of the Quilters Guild.
I'm sorry, we've never been that big.
Do what?
We've never been.
Okay. Okay. Well, then the website was incorrect.
It says
Okay.
40 on.
Website was incorrect then. Now here's the challenge that we had with that. And this is the conversation I've been having with Stephanie and with April as well too, as our staff members on there. The Quilters Guild is also a membership organization. So it is similar to a Kiwanis or a Lions Club and everything. And that's why we run into the $40 an hour pay. So they're not really a program of the adult center, even though it fits what they would state the mission is. What I've asked Stephanie and April to look at doing was to define the quilters as a program within the facility. So the idea was that, and you'd mentioned about working with kids and everything else. What we want to do is that because it's a membership group, we want people in there that don't have to necessarily be a member of the Quilters Guild, helping making the quilts and everything. That significant increase in that $40 drops, I think, almost in half, just on the broad level of saying, let's make it a program. Let's bring in other people that want to learn how to quilt. I mean, we've got the expertise and everything there, and let's try to figure out that model. I know Stephanie and April will continue to work with trying to get that solidified. I think the biggest challenge we have is that, and this is the thing that I shared with the Commission on Aging as well too, is that, and this goes all the way back to all of our conversations with the fee structure and the entire thing that we've done. The city of Roswell has not done its job for adult services and programs. Everybody else has picked up the slack in order to make it what it has been. What I'm telling you is that the city staff is going to guarantee that we are going to make a more active program out of that adult center, and we're going to treat it with the respect that it needs to be. We're breaking some eggs as we go through that, and that's part of the challenge. Some of the programs that don't get enough people into them need to change the programs that we can get more individuals into it. With the rec center, I know in the meeting that we had 2 years ago, the idea was to keep most of the kids at the rec center and then let the adult center come back to the adult services. And so I think if we do any kind of quilting programs with the kids, we will want to move, into another space, maybe moving some of the stuff over into the rec center for activities over there as well too. I will tell you that the staff is willing to work its way through that. The only other variable that I shared with the Commission of Aging is that in last year's budget, when we developed out that budget, we developed out cost recovery for a lot of different services. So the zoo, the museum, and the golf course, we established a 70-30 cost recovery, which means they need to generate 70% of their own funds through fees and everything, and 30% would be covered through subsidy from the city. Recreation was determined differently. Recreation of the Rec Aquatic Center and the Adult Center were determined at a 50-50 level. And the idea was that these are more important services that we are providing to the population, to the community. These other quality of life ones, while they're important, they can generate their own funding. So the idea was that we're going to go with a 50-50 cost recovery for Adult Center and for the recreation and aquatics. That does not mean that everything that we do in there has to be at a 50-50 level, but at the end of the day, the expenses should average out to a 50-50. Within this year's budget, the Adult Center is based upon a 4-year trend pre-COVID. And on an average of that 4-year trend, we estimate that the Adult Center is running for about $212,000 of expenses each year. So if you use a 50-50 on that model there, it's $106,000 that we will try to generate in some form or fashion. And so that's why we're focusing on the programs. And I'm not saying that the quilters have to pay 50% or more. I think everybody needs to contribute a little bit to it. If you utilize the Museum Foundation or the Library Foundation, which we have an Adult Center Foundation as well too, those foundations are actually sponsoring kids or adults to attend the classes. They're committing other dollars in order to offset some of that. So in my mind, I think that we have a lot of the similar pieces at the Adult Center. We've just not focused on it the way it is. This doesn't get you to a full resolution of the conversation today, other than I really wanted to share that background, because the idea is to try to bring this thing up to where it needs to be. And it'll be the city carrying this portion of the ball. And what we would hope is that the foundation the Commission on Aging, all of these groups that are in there to help carry it as well too. And, I mean, within that conversation 2 years ago, we said that any adult is allowed to go in that adult center without a charge. I mean, that was part of the thing too. So we want them inside. And then if they utilize a program, then we'll try to offset the cost with some kind of, whatever that cost is, paying the instructor, paying for the lights being on, paying for the insurance, and all of that will be a part of that. So hopefully that's some background with that. I don't have a good final response to that. I know that Stephanie and April are both working closely with them. It is not something that we have to flip the switch automatically, but we have to start moving that way. So we can delay initiation of certain things, but at some point in time we need to have that model. But when we talk about the numbers that you have they're not generating the money in order. You talked about the donations that you're giving away, the quilts and everything. They don't generate money. We need, I mean, if nothing else, hopefully we can find sponsors that are willing to help support this worthwhile endeavor in the facility as well too. And I think that's where I just wanted to make sure I covered that. I'll answer any questions from that point, but I wanted to make sure I laid out that because we've been working on this for a long time of trying to make sure that everybody understands how we're going to do our jobs in the future for this need in the community.
All right. And that, to see that the idea of it becoming a program of the RAC, and y'all still keeping your entity, there's kind of a dichotomy of both, but it's still, it works.
It's very easy to make it work because our meetings have always been open and classes have always been open. Unless we were paying for a teacher to come in, there might be a fee attached.
Right.
But I have a question. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
It's for Joe too. So they put money into the building to get the electrical in there and whatever they need to do their job, because you just don't carry your sewing machine in, and a quilting sewing machine, the great big ones, been there, done that. Well,
Right.
Haven't done it, but anyway, so you're saying that we may have to put some of it over to the recreation center for the kids, if the kids want to learn. Why can those kids that specifically want to learn that be able to go to the adult center?
We can do that. I mean, I guess we get into that conversation we had 2 years ago when the gym was full of everybody in there as well too. And the request at that point in time is that we want the adult center back for the adults.
Understood.
Because the kids are manageable at a different level.
Well, and I'm going to say right now, the kids that are sewing
Yep.
are at that different level.
Yeah.
They have that discipline of sitting down, threading a machine, so forth and so on.
But I appreciate exactly what you're saying. I think that some of the best programs that I have seen is where we've taken our more mature kids and have them help work with our less mature kids.
Okay.
It's a better way to say seniors, I think.
There you go.
Because it's all about taking care of all of our whole
seniors
capacity.
get that youth back.
And really, we have 11,000 people in this city that are over the age of 55. 11,000 people.
Damn it, I'm one of those.
Yeah, I am too. And the idea though is that I would say that our numbers, just like the numbers for the Quilting Guild as well too, our numbers for the adults that are in that center are not even close to that number.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's probably 10% as well.
But I think this is an opportunity, as we've found with REMAC, we found with the zoo, that once we start working as a city to advertise, to work with the groups, that we can increase those numbers. But we may, I don't know, room 22 in my mind is I'm trying to get back to it. I'm not sure you want more than 40, 50 people in that room anyway.
40 is.
Yeah, 40 is, yeah.
But I think, in answering that question, I don't think there's anything wrong. I think having controlled environments for the children to go over, work with the adults and everything. The retired senior volunteer programs were always good to work with as well too. I think that when we had everything combined, it was just very difficult
It was.
because it was a little
Too much.
less structured.
Yeah.
So,
And you've got your 4-H groups or your FFA groups that would gladly, they already know how to sew. And stepping into this, it just increases education to that. So I don't want them to go anywhere. Sorry.
And I guess I'm going to be, as we already know, the adults that are in the adult center, their income is not enough to be, it's different than the youth or the people that can pay for all the kids that go into the rec center and all the other place. This is the adult center. Most of them have little to no income anyway. So I know everybody's going to say I'm wrong, but I just feel like we need to do something. Why can't, if most of our population is there, why can't we leave it, reduce that for a little bit? Let them get situated and get functioning. It's still, I don't know, have y'all did any of the fixing and all the remodels and all that stuff is done? Y'all want $100,000 for 5, I don't know how many groups are in there anymore. Haven't been there since saw them children was running in and out. I see enough of them during the
But they
day.
think it's
So
scholarships.
I just think, I don't understand helping. That stuff, that equipment is not cheap. I don't want no children coming in there running on my, and you know, that's not cheap equipment. And then you get a couple trying to move around in there. You said the older senior, older young people, some of them can handle some of the kids that come in there, and the quality of work will be different than what you would be, especially what they're saying they're doing with them. They're not making quilts for the little kids to take home. They're making stuff to give the people do you see the quality of this quilt? It's not a dollar store quilt. So it's not like we can just let anybody that wants to sign up and go in there and do what they do in there. So I think maybe adjusting the cost right now is the best and try to throw some kids up in there. That's not the answer right now, I don't think. I think until we get situated where, maybe later on, once it gets situated and functioning, we don't want them to go nowhere. And I don't know what y'all can do about that, but this is somebody had to put their foot down about this. 30 years in that building and y'all want to pay $5,000 a month. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
I appreciate where you're coming from with that. But if any program is not enriching the community, then we should not be doing those. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that everything that we do should be able to make somebody's life better. And so yeah, you're not going to find my sons helping quilt because they're not built for it. They just wouldn't be,
We have men in the
I should say my grandkids now because
the best men in the quilt guild.
yep.
I'm not sure they can't.
My mother-in-law quilts every day at the house. I mean, that is just like you said, this is part of what she's done all of her life and everything. Of course, my wife, as her daughter, doesn't help as much. So
what is the solution, Joe?
Right.
Tell me the solution.
Quality of life for them.
we'll keep working on finding out a model. Now, when you talk about the improvements to the building, none of the improvements have been made to that building from what we've talked about 2 years ago.
Right.
COVID messed everything up. We're coming out of that. What I've stated to everybody, staff included, is that we are not going to do any type of cost recovery on the improvements of the building. We're going to fix the building the way we are supposed to. It is not going to be worked into that cost structure of any of that. And keep in mind, I'm not asking for everybody to do a 50-50. What we're trying to do is get our hands on what exactly programming are we going to try, and then how much of that can cover in this thing. Because the other things that we can go after are sponsorships, for different days, for different things, donations. The community or the Adult Center Foundation has a lot, has their group of donations, and it's like not every senior has that capability, but there are other seniors that are okay. And so the idea is that we consolidate all of those efforts to support everybody so that everybody can participate and everybody can join. The kids that are attending our stuff they're being paid for by their parents, and as we come into it, you're right about the seniors and our more mature kids, is that some of them are fixed income, some of them are, but they need to be able to come and go. And that's why we've changed our structure from 2 years ago that everybody can come in that building. You know, we've got a group that plays dominoes, got a group that plays pool all the time. I think my thing that worries me right now the most is that on average, we have 40 people a week using that facility. And I just told you 11,
Or just in.
40 for the entire building, 40 people that we have on an average on a week. We have 11,000 people over the age of 55 that fit this criteria. We have to market better. We have to get more
Right.
people in there.
But
We have
after
to
the
start doing
marketing
that.
better, I can see we
Yeah.
work on this. After the marketing ain't their
Yeah.
fault. Marketing is not their fault.
So what is
The number of
the
people in there is not their
solution
fault.
for them right now? That's why we're here,
Well-
is to figure out a
I don't-
solution for them right now. I get the overall
Well,
thing.
This is a non-action item, so we're not really acting, but we can
Where-
come up with solutions, but we're not.
Where we will come from here, again, Stephanie and April will continue to work with everybody. There is no reason I can state to everybody that I don't need a check tomorrow and nobody's getting kicked out of the building if I don't get paid what we're asking for. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, I know. But we will continue to work on that model. I don't even think our staff has it to the point where we can say, this is how much to make that $106,000. This is how we're going to make it happen. And I would like to know that before we get too definitive on all of this stuff with where it's at. You know, I think the only other challenge is that we went through recreation directors over this last window of time as well too, and that helped confuse the issue. So what happens with staff as we try to get reset, as we try to start fixing those things that have been out there burning for a long time, because I know Marcus Gallegos had met with the groups a number of times. I know April was a part of that as well too, but now we're trying to we're back open. We're trying to move back forward with that. So we'll continue to work with them. If nobody gets kicked out, nobody's going to get chastised if we don't get a check or whatever. We'll keep working with that. And so we'll try to figure out exactly what that model looks like. I don't have a better answer than that right now. So, okay.
And that's what I wanted to assure
Have your
Ms.
phone,
Andrews,
please.
that's we are working on it, and we want it to be an open dialogue. And I think that there's ways of doing it. I mean, what you give to this back to our community, and I think that we have valued partners that would partner with you, and that's the idea, that to bring up get that 106. I think we can hit it. I
don't have any
we're not
fear of
trying
that
to
either.
get it from any one entity, and I know it looks big when we first put things to numbers, but I think we can have sponsors. I mean, I think some businesses easily would love to have their name associated with giving quilts to veterans.
I'd agree. I think that we just have to reach out a little bit differently. I know Juanita had a little bit to add, but
I'm good.
okay, all right,
I was just going to say the same thing that Councilor Foster said. It's not an action item. It's a privilege.
okay,
I was all messed up because we moved it around.
yeah.
I was still in action items. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, sorry.
Well, I must say, I appreciate very much being the agenda.
You don't want to sit through a whole
But
thing.
these are fun things.
I just wanted to say I appreciate what you do, what y'all were doing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's some things that I couldn't do and a lot of people couldn't do. So I want to appreciate you, what you and your group are doing.
Thank you so much.
And I've always appreciated your work, all that you've done for the kids.
You're a teacher, weren't you?
University.
He was a principal at University High.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see
That's
how
where I work right now.
That's where I work right now.
That's where I work right now.
Well, I thought that.
For B.
All right.
Yeah.
So now we're on to,
So I'm like,
So you moved
presentation from Adult Center
yeah,
Foundation.
number 7.
1B.
Chair, would you like the presenter to move up or?
Go ahead.
Sure, would you be, that way we can,
There?
instead
I
of,
can't see you over there. On
can break our
Straighten
neck.
your eye. My paraffin.
Yeah, got here early to get her a good seat.
Hi, how are you? I'm Carolyn Mitchell. I'm the president of the Roswell Adult Center Foundation. So we are discussing what we can do as a foundation. to make the adult center a prime example of the I believe theory. I believe in Roswell, and I believe that the senior adults in Roswell, all adults in Roswell, should know more about the adult center. And I just talked to Juanita. This little article was in the paper on the hours changing. Well, nobody even knows the center's open. That's the reason there's only 40 people there. I'm sorry. Joe, I quote you from the paper, or I quoted you on stuff that you care about the quality of life issues. This was in the paper Friday, the 14th of May. And let me read just a little bit of this. It says that this is from the state, a plan to serve older adults. And it says right here, the research found that the greatest needs among older adults or the disabled adults in this state are number 1, nutrition, number 2, transportation, and number 3, social interaction. That's exactly what the adult center provides. If anybody knows about it, we've got to, as you say, promote the center, get classes that are relevant. We've had computer classes there. Computers are all gone now. They need to be updated. There's a lot of things we can do. We can teach Spanish. We can bring in more kids to teach them to quilt. We talked to the extension service and we want to cooperate with them. The only way that I'm a member of the Pecos Valley Quilters. I've put on quilt shows for them. I've been intimately involved with lots of things, Habitat for Humanity. I'm here, and there's a lot of people in our community that are willing to be a part of this, but we need to know what the city's doing. Our lines of communication are nil. We're very frustrated because we want to do what's right for the center and what's right for Roswell. And the foundation will do what it can. Our bylaws prevent us from giving money to the city. We can't write you a check. We're there to support the foundation, to put things in there for the use. We bought the kilns. We've spent $10,000 resurfacing the floor in the gym. We bought new curtains for the stage. We've spent, the statue out front was a project that the foundation paid for to begin with. We spent $5,000 2 years ago to get it restored. To find somebody that can do that is quite a challenge. But have you walked into you said you haven't been in the adult center in a long time. Well, during COVID, the city was over there working. They closed off the new quote unquote 20-year-old rooms with really the only accessible handicap bathroom that was there with a sign on the door. So if anyone did go in, no admittance, employees only. Now I understand that was removed last week, but it's a great place. The people there love it. The dancers, the people that do ceramics, and we want to do what we can to promote it, but we can't do it on our own without the city. And working with us to make it the best it can be. We have a lot of people that will put their heart and soul into it.
So what do you,
I get, yeah.
so what are you saying you need from him? I'm just kidding.
I need, well, okay. This little brochure was, I don't know if you all seen this? Have you all seen this? You voted on it, apparently.
No, we didn't vote on that.
Did you vote on what was inside it?
No, that's their job.
Last meeting.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you all voted for this, you voted for our room to be $40 an hour. And we got a bill for it for the Pecos Valley Quilters recently.
So they already sending bills? I thought it wasn't happening yet. How you get a bill if it's not happening yet?
It's in a folder.
It's part of.
Leslie got one.
And of course, the fee structures themselves, yes, I thought that was a programming guide, but that fee structure guide, you guys did vote on that, and that is what was established for that for.
And
it does, now the $40 per hour is not for programs of the adult center though. It is for outside use of the facility. We have room rental rates from $35 per hour all the way up to $125 per hour based upon the space used in the building that they're in. So
May I comment on that? A 50-year-old building and a $22 million building, do you think the rental rate should be comparable
yes.
for the same space?
And the reason I say yes is because the money that is invested in that hourly price for that room should go back into making sure that that room is viable for use for a longer period of time. We have taken less than what a building is used. I mean, we talk about leases all the time in the Air Center and everything else. We take less than what the value of that building is, and then we have to use taxpayer money in order to bring the building up if there's anything that falls apart in that room. So the whole idea about the hourly rate on these rooms is so that that money can return to maintain that room at that level that it is. And so I have a strong, hard time with, if I charge per the condition of the room, then I can get really bargain basement pricing for the rooms, but it'll leak, it'll have mold, it'll have, I don't want that either. We have to maintain our stuff at a high standard. We need to set a rate that's acceptable to at least assist with that, and then we can cover the rest of that. The whole hard part about the funding for the adult center, parks and recreation altogether, is that it's competing against the number of police officers we have on the street. It competes about the fire department. It competes about the streets that we fix. All that money is the same money, and it's a prioritization of how that goes. So the idea of that room, whatever that room rate is, and I don't know what the right number is. I mean, I know what we've been charging, and I know what we've not been able to get done because we don't have enough money to move around in all those different things. And so in my mind, just to answer the question, I think we should be charging an appropriate rate, but I think if we're going to charge more than what the value of the room is because of the condition of the room, then there should be more money put into that room to bring it up to date. And that's why the room that we have closed off over there at the adult center, because the roof leaks, needs to be fixed. And it's going to be fixed, but we're not going to make whoever wants to, we're not letting anybody use the room. But if anybody wants to use the room, I'm not going to charge them less for that room because I want to make sure that that is taken care of. So I hope that helps. I understand exactly what your point is for that. You should be charging what the value of that area is. But I'm telling you that anything that the city generates, it's not like it goes into somebody else's pocket. It goes back into the services that we're providing.
I would love to see a budget for the adult center. I haven't been able to find one online in any of it. There's something under recreation grouping, but I haven't been able to break anything out for the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, I've been working on this that long.
And Caroline, the city had it all tucked into the administration fund, the recreation administration, until this year's budget. That's where I come up with the $212,000 for operation of that center. It is listed in that budget. It shows salaries plus operations. It does not show capital within that line item. So we can get you a copy of that. And then from there, just like we've told the city council with this whole budget, we can delve down to a line item by line item as to what our expected estimates are going to be doing. So going forward, we fix that problem because, again, I agree with you. How do you tuck that into everything else and think that you can manage what it should be?
Well, the transparency is an issue with never having publicized any of this that I'm aware of. I saw it first. Stephanie gave me one when we went in, last week?
Can I interact right here? We did vote on that. We voted on packages of that, one for the zoo, one for everything that we've done, the art museum and everything.
Did you single out the adult?
Now, you have to understand, everything is online. You can go back to that actual date where we voted for it, so forth and so on. Within the last 3 years, 2 mainly, we're finally getting everything split out the way it needs to be split out. The good old boy system didn't have anything split out. We have a manager now that's taken the reins and he's splitting everything out. COVID got in the way for a year. So now that everything's transparent in this town, everything, more so than the county, even the state. Everything we do, every meeting we have that is available for the public is on YouTube. We can probably get the date on that day that it was voted for that. Because if I remember, it took me a while, but if I remember right, we voted on that. You already had it prepared. Then we had to vote on it again to make sure that it was correct and right. What Joe is saying, the quilters are not paying an hourly price, and they probably won't. People that come in, let's say I want to borrow the gymnasium for a dance. I pay for the band, I pay per hour for that gymnasium that I'm there. The setup time, the cleanup time. And if I don't clean it up correctly, it's just like the Grace Corn Heritage House. If I don't clean it up correctly, they're going to charge me more because I'm having to have the employees do it. We're just now figuring this out. It hadn't been done before. Now that we've had COVID, we've been shut down a year. That one room's being repaired. We're having to find the money for that because it probably wasn't there. We've asked for a cost recovery for all of our groups. Which one have we not asked for a cost recovery on? I think everybody is either having to do 70-30 or 50-50. So we're getting there. You folks have to have a little bit of patience with us because this is all new to us.
When you're getting bills,
I understand.
that kind of scares when you don't have the
Did you
money.
go to the lady up front and ask her about it?
Well, that's her job, but
Okay.
I'm speaking as a foundation.
Okay.
I'm representing the foundation
Okay.
here as well as the quilters, but I'm just saying that transparency with the whole adult center into what the city is planning and what it wants to see, that vision has not been expressed
Okay.
to the people that are there, the people that were there before COVID hit.
So is the vision for the restaurant, it's not complete, it's not done yet. We haven't, that's one of the things that we haven't talked about that like we did the zoo and everything else. Have we really had some breakdown? You know what I mean? We hadn't had those real, what's the
They're in
plan
line.
meeting, it's coming, it's not there yet. So this processing fee was just a general, I argue with that about all the time, but.
She did.
All the time. I'm like, some gotta be free, but the process, we're working on that. So you're talking about a vision that we haven't even really worked out yet. We know some things we want to happen. We know something we want, we want to recover here and there, but we don't, the plan for the room building itself are not quite done yet. So there's no, they got the design for the new part. We don't have a design for that just yet. We're just working on trying to get it up to par before we can make some new designs.
And they can
If
put
I'm
I
thinking
know
about
Juanita
it.
might have something.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why the communication here with the quilter, with us making it a program and still and y'all still being your own, there's ways of working it so that there won't be that $40 an hour bill.
Well, that's wonderful, but I'm here for the people that go into the lapidary room.
Right.
The people that go into the ceramics room,
Yeah.
the tap dancers,
Jewelry.
the line dancers, the people that
Those are adult center programs, am I correct?
not some of them. Some of them use it as open studio for the artists.
So from what I'm understanding, if it's an adult center program, they will have a due per year or per 6 months. If you are going in just to sit down, I'm sure there'll be a fee for that. And if you're renting it, there's going to be a fee for that.
Well, see, the foundation provided the kilns. We bought the bands to keep the lapidary people working. We have provided a lot of that stuff, and we want to see people be able to use it and have instructors with maybe only 2 or 3 students that are interested at one time. But still, it takes to run a kiln and to watch the baking of the projects, the clay or whatever they're making. When you're talking at $20 an hour for them to be there, and then they're 7 hours working. I mean, it's just the picture of what goes on there. It needs some clarity in your vision, but you need to know what's there and why it's there and what it takes to have that vision clear. And
when it's all said and done, we're trying to get to that point where there's 106,000 that we can show. And I'm going to let Ms. Jennings speak because she's been dying to say something.
She's got to
But the other thing about it is I think that we don't want you to cut the city a check, but your capital improvements that you make by purchasing the kilns and stuff like that, I think those are things that we can count towards that 106. Not the capital improvements we make into it, but your capital improvements can be things that go towards that 106,000. And so that's balancing that. And that's what, working together, we're going to get to this.
That's where we're.
But Ms. Jennings, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is your meeting, Mr. Chair, and members of the council. The one thing that I did want to address with the foundation as well as with the quilters that we are working on with the transition of the leadership and things that we are aware that now we're breaking it out into the budget. Mrs. Mervine, as well as her staff, are working on an annual plan for both properties, for the adult center specifically and for the recreation center, where they're going to outline the programs, what's going to be offered, the cost recovery, and our goal is then to present that to you guys in one of these meetings, having the dialogue with our community partners. I value that our foundation as well as our other associations are good community partners, and making sure that the plan fits to serve the community. And so that will be forthcoming. You're absolutely right. I think there's been a lot of transition, but there's more work to be done on our part in collaboration with them to make sure that we are providing the best quality service for the members.
When you get ready for that, are y'all going to invite them when y'all
Yeah,
start?
we've actually been having some dialogue. Mrs.
Just
Mitchell
now.
came and met with myself and Mr. Nebb and another gentleman, Larry, I believe.
Larry McCray.
Larry, and
Treasurer.
we've had an initial conversation. I know that Miss Mervine and Carolyn have been meeting a couple of times. And so I think it's just the timing. There's lots of opportunities coming. And I hope that by this time next year, we're going to have a great plan for fiscal year 23 where we won't have all these unknown answers.
Well, I think generally this was premature.
Well, and in my mind, and that's where, just going off of that really quickly, and then I'll go on that as well too, is that I don't think the communication's been non-existent. I think it's been late coming in the first place because we have met. We are still trying to get enough of that information out there. All I can do is apologize for the past. I cannot fix the past. And so when we met 2 years ago in the gym over there as well too, and we discovered that we were trying to implement fees that were approved a year and a half earlier and nobody knew about them, all I can do is apologize. Because again, the city council's intent, even though whatever that rate or that fee is, it becomes staff's responsibility to talk with everybody affected at that point in time. I'm sorry, I can't fix it. But all I can do is assure you that we are going to work. This team here is going to work hard at moving it forward. And we need the Adult Center Foundation at the table. We need the quilters at the table. We need 11,000 people at that table, by the way. Anybody over the age of 55. And that will actually take them younger because eventually they'll be over 55.
Well, according to my understanding, is anyone over 18 is actually allowed.
That is true. Yeah, anybody at that adult age is where they're. I just know that when I started looking at the census information, because it's like, what is our critical mass? We look at it at the golf course as well too. What's our critical mass? How many people should we have in there? And everybody is right. We don't have enough people in that facility. And there's a lot of reasons why.
I certainly appreciate this coming to a head and being at the attention of this group because, like I said, the foundation wants to work with you. We've talked to Jeff. We're very aware of what's going on. There's a lot of things that can be done to rehumanize the center. There was an assistant manager several years back that stripped everything off the walls.
Yeah, that Peter Hurd went away, didn't it? Or was it Ben Turner?
It's Ben Turner. That belonged to the foundation.
I know where it went.
Yeah, it went to Tim Jennings.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but the foundation has that money working for the foundation and our investments to put back in the center. And we intend to, but we can't do it with everyone on edge, not knowing what tomorrow's going to bring without communication. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the work. I can't imagine. One other thing. By closing at 5 o'clock on the weekdays and not being open on Saturday, you're cutting out about 30% or 40% because the people work can't be there. And there's lots of classes that are needed.
And we're looking to expand our.
Yeah, this was a COVID related thing where we ended up pulling back as hard as we did. Now we're trying to find the people that we can extend out those hours. And so, because we need that personnel there as well too, to make sure that everybody that's utilizing the facility or any of the services are taken care of.
Thank you so
So
much.
yes, we are trying to get back to that.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And I did get too excited
So
about
you was a little more passionate.
Well,
A lot of passion going on.
Don't apologize for being passionate.
thank you.
All right, that's one they want.
Okay. Now I gotta put my glasses back on so I can read. right?
Is the exit.
We go on item number 5.
Action item number 5, designation of the property for Old Chisholm.
That's number 2.
I do, but I wanted to show you.
That's renumbered.
It's renumber. Let's just say 5 because that's what it's on, so we know.
Don't mix the poor man up. He's been with kids all day.
I've got my.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, and,
All right.
Yeah, he's got me.
We don't have.
So ready
yeah,
for Australia?
Absolutely.
All right.
this is Barry's, you're gonna see something out in there.
We
We
got excited. We were just
did a
like,
whole section.
I'm not excited.
Right.
Sorry for you having to put the drainage.
Talk about billiards, playing dominoes.
Absolutely.
all right.
They haven't been in there.
This is
there.
out
Right.
tomorrow,
Here, counselors,
but it will be out.
make a presentation and ask for your consideration to designate the old Chisholm School property into
Mr. Chair, if
a park.
Juanita, if we could maybe have you all step outside. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, because it is being filmed, so that was.
Thank you.
As we know, the city has been awarded $400,000 in ICIP funding for the new park, if it's so designated. Here's a screenshot of what it actually looks like now. As the property is to be developed as the old Chisholm School site on South Virginia Avenue. You see on the right-hand side, there's pretty much nothing left but dirt, a couple trees. All right. Next slide. As a satellite view, and we'd kind of looked at this in the past. You see the drawing on the right-hand side. Engineering helped us kind of come up with a site plan. So we start just take a look at this, so we know how much dirt to take out and where the water and sewer things are at. That's what that drawing is. That's as far as we got in the past. Okay, $300,000 of the funding will be used on preparing the property for proper infrastructure, including grading, filling, irrigation, grass, trees, shrubs, electrical, and water. Remaining funds will be used to outfit the park with equipment and furnishings, trash cans, picnic tables, play units, swing sets, etc., whatever's decided on. Community will have a chance to provide the input on what amenities they would like to see throughout the neighborhood. We're going to talk to everyone. We may have a meeting at the parks office, or we may reach out with a survey, and we need to know kind of how old the kids are, and we want to put in equipment that's going to be used for a long time. Each type of equipment has an age limit on it. So we want to know what everybody would like to see down there. And I stand for any questions.
So you said you're gonna do a survey online, like type survey? Or
Probably do that survey monkey.
walk through them parks, through that street over there?
Yeah, I'll walk down the street.
I got my kids, I got several of my kids in my class right now that live there, so they can go.
I'll walk through there just slowly, but we have survey monkeys and different things, and we kind of did it to one of the other parks, Linda Vista. The wife suggested I might ask what everybody in the neighborhood wanted. I thought that was a good idea, and we're going to try to follow that same procedure because, it is determined on age groups and.
Has some shirt in the game.
Skin in the game.
That goes with football. That's a big
Yes.
skin.
Pig
Skin in
skin,
the game.
yes. We do want to make sure we make the people in that part of town happy. It's going to be their park they're going to walk to. So ask them.
Talking about doing that, the 300,000, when is, we talking soon, far?
As far as the engineering goes, I won't have a designer done available Jim Six will be assigned this one till after the towers are done, so probably another 30 days. But as engineering, we had the same questions. What are we going to do with drainage? How are we going to have ADA access? Are we going to have parking? Are we going to have required utility? All the same questions that, because it's a site, it's site development. Any site development, the same old questions, and we'll take it from there. I would suggest going to the neighborhood. I have dealt with that neighborhood on speeding complaints and other complaints. It's a lot of Hispanic speaking people. And I know they won't answer, typically they won't answer the survey monkeys and that kind of stuff. So a door to door would probably be the best thing to do. And my suggestion, get somebody from parks, maybe somebody from engineering, make sure we have Hispanic people that can talk. I mean, it's very similar to what we do with CDBG projects. When we do CDBG projects and I have to get the LMA, the income levels, we have to go knock on doors, and I usually send 2 people out, at least one speaks Spanish, and we just knock on doors. Have a prepared questionnaire, one side English, one side Spanish, and just knock on the doors.
Put some yard signs out and phone numbers.
But from an engineering perspective, it's just another site development, the same old questions I always have. And take it from there.
One of our flashing signs around there or something.
So are you going to use part of this for parking lot? And will that cut down on your irrigation and your
I
water?
have no idea.
It depends on what everybody wants, but
So-
probably.
Well, you're going to have parking.
Yeah, parking's always an issue. ADA access is always an issue. Irrigation is going to be an issue. Drainage, I envision the drainage kind of like we did at Satomo Park, where you'll build it up. You got to have good topsoil to plant the grass. And then we would have swales, because we don't want to water the streets. So we just catch the swale. That's how I envision it, but
So can you get DOT to help us with the parking and the ADH sidewalks and all of that?
well, fortunately, there's sidewalks all the way around the perimeter. We're going to try to make use
On the
of
map
that.
there, that light, there's an alley.
Go back to the picture one, or.
That one?
No, the first picture. There you go. See the sidewalk? Now, it's a 4-foot sidewalk, but it's already there.
Yeah.
It's already there. So under ADA,
So you've got to do each corner
we do
ADA.
the corner, and then if
Does
there's,
DOT help us with that? Because DOT helps us with all these corners here downtown.
DOT does not help us.
That's our 250,000.
That comes out of engineering 4020 M&R infrastructure repairs.
Something gave us.
Yeah, when we do a project.
This is a project.
But when
No, but it's not a DOT.
It's not a DOT for,
Why?
It's not a transportation project.
it's not a state highway.
It is transportation of little kids to a playground.
I would also add, I'm not too sure if parking's necessary if it is a neighborhood park.
Right, we don't
I
have,
mean, the whole idea is to make it walkable so that the neighborhood can
There you
go
go.
to it.
right.
You may not need,
You would require probably 2 spaces.
maybe for the
ADA,
handicap and
the ADA.
ADA accessibility, but I think that's why I think we need to get through the conversation with the neighborhood as to what we need to do there, because if we're developing out a neighborhood park,
I don't know.
it is meant to be walkable,
Well-
not.
Well, and I understand that, but it would be like over at the Parks and Rec Center. You have 6, 7 spaces there by your office.
Yeah.
And that's for people that come to walk and play at the park. I mean, 2 handicap is not going to cut Mamacita and 5 or 6 other family members that
But
want
there's
to take
parking on the
bikes.
street, there's parking on the street all the way around, right, all the way around, because that whole neighborhood parks on that street, on that side right there.
In my mind, 400,000 is twice as much as what we thought we would receive for this
Yeah.
project.
That was a hoot.
Let's make it nice though.
And of course, our staff has a way to spend it all.
Oh, I already have a list.
So I think let's determine exactly what all we need on there. So don't get stuck in the weeds too much. I think the one request that we're making in this one right now, keep in mind what we need from you.
Is
Get this property designated as a park.
park.
Right now, it is currently not a park. It is the old Chisholm Elementary School
Is it?
property that the city acquired.
There's a hunk of dirt.
Okay, so you want a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to designate the property at the old Chisholm School site, 2301 South Virginia Avenue, as a park designation for the city of Roswell.
Second, do we need to send it to?
Oh, I'm sorry, send it to full council. Well, it has to do with money. Yeah, send it to full council. Send it to full council. Let's make it long. You want it on consent? Let's do it on consent. We'll see if it gets pulled off.
Okay, I have a motion
Have a second.
and a second. Discussion? Okay.
Roll those dice. Let's play tough today.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. It passes. All right.
Jim and Lewis will keep you abreast of every,
Yes.
as we move forward with this project, so.
So why wasn't there already water lines? Then if it was the school,
There
they
there
took
are.
everything out, they took everything, they pulled all the irrigation and all that stuff.
They're there.
If you water there, but.
So it'd be a little less because they're capped, not.
Right, but you still got,
What does the PVC look like underneath there?
Oh, wow.
idea.
How long has it been there?
I
So
wouldn't know if it's PVC.
Yeah,
There's nothing growing there, so.
yeah. We acquired the property in 2007. If they'd kept turning the water on and off for.
Looks like we're growing good.
Yeah, Councilman Benz, you're right. We look at it, started all over.
Those 4 trees are still alive.
We have to
they
start.
hit the water table.
Okay,
There you go.
so
He's got to go get a drink. I know he'll see those things. One of Peppers.
we left 2, 3, and 4 as still non-action items, correct?
That's right. You moved from-
So we stop back at 2, 3, and 4 and just bring it up. I know you had some discussion, Counselor Best.
Oh, yeah.
We're starting with the approval of Gateway.
Well, just.
No, we're just
going to be discussing.
No, we're not talking about it. Okay.
Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-oh.
She's already,
Joe?
she's throwing her papers down.
I'm throwing my
See,
paper.
they use my middle name, all right? It's usually when I know I'm in trouble.
We're not going to tell them.
So I looked at this and I picked out a lot of things that is just inconsistent. It's wrong. It's a template contract. That's as simple as that. I know you're getting ready to jump in here. They've got to be at least 2+ years old, each one, from what I feel, because on the Gateway one, we're using the basketball games as overflow in their gym. We don't need that, okay? You have extension dates of 6 additional periods of 3 months. Well, you've got insurance that's only 1 year at a time. Are you going to go back and look at that again?
Yes.
Okay, then you've got different addresses here that to me make no sense.
Let's stop real
Oh, no.
quick and just a second.
Oh,
I know,
no,
I
I have a
understand.
signed contract by this coach and nothing from the city signed. I'm just,
Right.
let me finish my
We've been
last
at
two.
the time
real
with
quick.
an employee.
No, that's okay.
Okay, I'll stop.
One of the, because what I think that if you want to address all 3 at one time.
Yeah, I will. Yes, sir. And so you're correct. This is not ready for you. Generally, the city council does not approve use agreements on the fields. We've never done that before. The reason that as we were preparing these, when Parker did his review, was the reasons for those extensions. That would create, it's not, a use agreement should be an annual agreement, period.
Well, Parker didn't see these because I called him and asked.
Well, my understanding is that he saw them and he made 3 changes, but they did not take off the signature page. And so I don't know if we've talked to everybody. So, because when I talked to Parker today, I said a use agreement should be annual, period.
Mhm.
Now, what I said, what I wanted to add to it that we don't have in there right now, because associations are only as good as the parents that are a part of the association as well, too. So when parents get mad at each other, they generally go out and try to create a new association to take care of their kids. So I've seen baseball leagues ripped apart and created more leagues. And then they start asking for public space as well, too. What I want to put in there is that, one, these use agreements will be annual in nature only, but then there will also be a first right of refusal for the following year for the one that currently has the agreement. So if that individual group decides not to do that, I mean, we don't have that many new groups or anything anyway, but that protects this system, keeps it on an annual basis, and then we can look at them at an annual time. So all three of these, I want to go back and look at that a little bit farther. I had talked with Damien about the Gateway Christian one because, yeah, it was utilizing the old template. It was actually at zero cost when we first looked at that because of the trade-off with the use of the basketball courts, which we used while the recreation center was down. He went back and he got that fixed with them because they have an in-kind service of about $6,900 a year where they're mowing the field, they're putting the clay in for the infields and everything else. And so
Noon Ops not doing that. They're not doing their senior field.
even though we call it the Noon Ops junior senior field, Noon Ops is actually not utilizing that field now. And that's why Gateway is able to utilize that field. Noon Ops is using the fields on the other side.
Okay.
And
Gateway hadn't been using any.
Gateway had been using, yes, yeah. The whole thing is that, and in the conversations that we've had over the last 2 years, and again, COVID got in the way of everything. We've been trying to get these things formalized as to what these relationships are. So we utilize a 50-50 cost recovery for all the sports associations as well too, but it is based upon the percentage of the 50-50 for the season, not the year.
Correct.
Because they're only using a short window of time. And so that's where that 50-50 comes in at. And so what Stephanie and Damien does when we're putting this together now is that they will put it together to assure that if they choose to do the in-kind, and that's what you were talking about with the foundation or the quilters, if they provide in-kind, then that offsets the need for the recovery of that 50-50.
So let me stop you right there. When they provide the in-kind, I've jumped over to the softball. Okay. They provide the in-kind, which is field mowing, $5,868.
Yep.
Sprinkler check, $7,488. Sprinkler replacement, $10,400. Now, Barry helped me with this last night when I called him. They are that much. Jim said that the kids kick the sprinkler heads, but they're doing the work to put them in. So this scares me that, of course, they'll have to buy the correct sprinkler head for it to work properly. I get that. But are they anybody skilled about mowing? And most people that mow a baseball field are pretty particular. The sprinkler check, it's pretty easy to go over and shake it, whatever. But putting this in, are they doing it correctly so we don't have to go back and refix it?
And I don't know the type that we have, whether they're a screw in or a plug in of that. We will, again, Jim and his crew will make sure that if they are not capable of that, then we will adjust.
So are they buying these from the city to make sure they all match?
I would have to assume yes, because we buy in
So
quantity.
I think, okay, I think it needs to be written down in here because there's no handshakes nowadays. Sorry.
Right, yeah, no, I know.
It needs to be detailed in here that they need to make sure it's weeded or whatever the case is, and make sure that the sprinkler check is done 6 times during that month, whatever, and that the sprinkler replacement comes from the city.
Well, so they can get them from the city, but a lot of times they can get the same unit for cheaper than we can. Sometimes they can be donated, sometimes
Allow them to go pick them up
as
themselves.
long as they are the same as what was already
So
there.
that needs to be listed here.
And so the other thing that we need to do though is that we need to make sure that our staff is going out to inspect on a regular basis that it's done. So, okay.
Because once you turn that pressure on, and if it's not the right one, it's going to blow 6 others down the line. So they need to have a specific one written down here where they can get it. I'm sure they're getting it from Home Depot.
No, can't get it from Home Depot.
They're ordering it offline.
You're gonna have to, you're gonna have to get it from, you're gonna have to have it shipped in.
And so
And they show you before they put it in?
It would not benefit them to put in one that was not the same because it's just gonna blow anyway, and then they're gonna replace it every time they turn the sprinklers on. So, I mean, they would.
yeah.
They need
All they
more
have to do is,
information now.
all they have to do is show us their invoice because we can read from
Correct.
the invoice that it's scheduled.
And look,
And we credit it. And keep in mind that even the numbers in there, like the mowing numbers are our numbers to cut
Correct.
grass. I think that they can cut the grass less, but we said if we're doing all the work, that's our cost recovery.
correct.
And the replacement sprinkler cost is our recovery cost.
I understand that.
Not what they can, if they can do it cheaper.
But we should be
They need to
tracking
tell
it.
them what kind it is.
Yep.
You know, and the mower's not ours, correct?
No,
Okay, so we don't have to repair that. But they need to know what we're using, what model, whatever.
And each field and each
It's different.
location and each head is different.
Yep.
You know, just depends on if they're doing.
We'll clean that up as well as we're updating these so that they're all accurate and a little bit farther complete.
But I think we go further, and instead of yearly, I think they really should be seasonal.
Yes.
I mean, just because we
Correct.
know we have fall and spring season and they could, I mean, eventually the softball could be two different, you know, but like, I do like your first right of refusal because,
Right.
and if the spring soccer is going to have a fall soccer, then.
And I like the conversation where it's at as well too, because the challenge we've had is that we have offshoots of each one of these associations doing extra seasons as well. And so we need to identify that as well too, because, you know, the reason that we started tackling all of this was because we're going to go after sports tourism.
Correct.
And so the idea is that we want to honor our relationships with our associations when they're doing their work, but then we're going to convert those building or those properties into tourism related pieces. And so, so I appreciate everything that you're
So
saying.
that up to 6 additional periods for 8 months, that doesn't need to be in there.
We're going to take that out of there because again,
This needs to be completely.
our assurance will be through the first right of refusal that if you're a league that wants that for the next year, you have the right to have it.
I like that.
Okay.
I'll shut up now. I was
So
really
what
going to
about
come on.
Can I get,
So,
can
the
I
in-kind
that
goes to maintenance of the field?
Yeah.
Because say for instance, I want to use it, instead of using it 3, now they're using it 6, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's
So.
more of keep on the field though, right?
So what staff did is, and essentially this is that same conversation we just had with the adult center as well too. We are establishing that we will maintain a standard on all of our ball fields at this level. What has happened is that we have not committed our support. And so you know, depending on the association and everything, the standard falls. We're saying that we want to treat everything of that standard. And so if nobody else takes care of those fields and the city takes care of 100%, this is all the work that they did. Damian, Marcus, Jim Burris, Rudy Chavez, they all put together this booklet of each one of our fields. They're actually doing the tennis courts right now because we're talking about tennis courts. But they put together this book and then they identified what it costs us to do each one of these services. So once we have an idea of how those standards are going to operate, now we can go back to the association and say, okay, depending on how active that association wants to be, you can either contribute and cover our 50% of our cost for that season, or if your parents are willing to come out there, you know, and all of them chalk their own fields is, you know, that's the easiest way to say it. They all chalk. And so we give them credit for the chalking of the fields. And so that's the whole idea within that process is trying to take care of that.
The other thing though that I do want us to, I mean, and I know off season, it's our job to take care of these fields. I do want to make sure that, and off season, the standard is a little bit different because you don't cut to the same level. You let them grow.
Right. Yep.
But I do want to say that we need to make sure we're committed to keeping those fields to that degree. And because I think that's one of those things, if they come back the next year and then they have to do a lot of work to get it to where they need it, to where they can play, then we haven't done our job during the off season.
You know, and last year being that COVID year, I can tell you that staff did exactly that through all of those fields. We let it grow a little bit farther, but everything was maintained. We could have, short of a couple days, we could have had every field playable as soon as possible. We couldn't figure out any other way because we didn't know how long COVID response was going to operate. And so that's how we did it. So.
But I do want us to be at that level because then that way it's showing commitment back to our partners that's how we feel about it. And so, and I want them to also let us know, which they usually do if it's not done to that level.
So what I will do is we will share at least with this committee as we get our final template and everything so that you know that we have all of our bases covered so you know what it looks like. City Council does not have to approve the use agreements, so we won't be taking it forward, but I want to make sure because we're in this conversation, you're responsible to assist us with making sure that this all works. So we'll bring back at least an FYI or a non-action item saying, here's here's what we've done to fix what we're hearing the issues were. Okay?
And that's what, and basically what I would think in the future, we'd like to at least be a month or two ahead of the season, just so that way we're not.
Yeah, well, and that's where.
There's a lot of things that.
I'll guarantee you that the recreation, when they get done with this whole renewal of their annual planning, they're going to be a year in advance of everything, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and that will be that,
Put them on the spot.
It'll help them, it'll help the associations. They'll know where.
Well, and it does. It helps us prepare and plan for it as well too. So.
All right.
All right. That's.
Any more questions on?
No.
Okay. Then I want to thank Carolyn for being so patient.
Oh, that's
I mean,
fine. She'd rather be here than out there.
Right now,
Oh,
I'm kind of breathing dust out there.
My little car, we need a little rain to make it mud.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm going to talk about the museum improvements. And this is referring to the $340,000 in state appropriations that are being given to the city. And going back a little bit, so in 2017, we had a strategic planning year for the museum. Part of our strategic plan is that we wanted to make the museum more welcoming, inclusive, accessible. And part of it is how our spaces feel and interact with the public when they come in. So in 2018, I worked with Kevin Dillon when he was here, and we worked with an architecture firm out of Albuquerque, Hewitt Zollers, and they came up with some concept designs for us. And the impetus for this is, and I'm kind of a broken record on this story, but we want to move the museum store from the back of the museum to the front of the museum, again, make it more accessible. And the other side of that too is revenues. And so we wanted to consider how we can make the museum store stand out more, increase sales, and then also with admissions, do a little bit of refurbishing of our lobby to make it more appropriate, more inviting when you come in to pay your admissions. And so this was the initial concept here. And I'll point off into the right-hand corner, maybe there's a coffee bar, that could be kind of nice, but that we've moved the admissions area from the right side where it's kind of cramped off to the left, and straight forward when you walk in. And this is gonna go. How am I pointing this at? Oh, is this not working?
Go ahead.
Okay. And something that Kevin came up with this idea, which I loved, which was taking our vestibule, which is those double set of doors, and taking the interior one and moving it outside. So therefore, the lobby is much more open. So when we have school groups come in, or again, people are visiting, that they have a place that they can go to, and it's much more comfortable. So then on the left there is the gift shop, which is currently our Spring River Gallery. And this was the concept of the interior of it. Of course, these are just stock items that the Hewitt Zoller put in there. For us, it would be branded merchandise, items that connect to our exhibitions and collections. And then also we want to have a further presence with our contemporary arts and craft communities too. So to represent their work from around the region. And then therefore, in moving the store to the front, it opens up the back space of the museum where we currently have a museum store. We'd be removing a couple of walls to open up the store for the space further. And this was the initial concept of, it's a workspace. It's a self-guided activity space that families can go into. And there would be activities that would be based on kind of the fundamentals of art, science, history, such that they can learn and take those activities and skills that they have back into the galleries to further enhance their museum experience. And this part, I will admit, caught me by surprise, is that the budget was much higher than I anticipated, but it's good to have our numbers and to be practical as well. So what I originally thought was gonna be more like a $500,000 or $600,000 project was $1.2 million. So I was a little surprised. But I had some other takeaways. So I've been shopping these images around, especially in 2018, 2019. COVID kind of stopped everything last year. But I heard, and we also heard today, is the community is very interested in helping us inform what we do, giving some feedback that informs our design. I also found out that family gallery design, it's nice, it's good. It didn't go as far as I wanted to take it. And really what I needed to for that space was to work more with an exhibits design firm to make it more of an experience when you go into that space. The other thing too is that on the horizon, we would eventually like to redo our Goddard exhibition. It's 50 and 60 years old. And so we need to have updated narratives and just an exhibition that's more inviting and uses contemporary practices. So with the family gallery being adjacent to the Goddard exhibit, whatever we do with that family gallery space, we need to think in the future of what we're going to be doing with the Goddard exhibit and make sure that they can work together. Also, with Kevin's idea of moving the interior doors outside, got us thinking again about our visibility and our facade and how can we stand out more and incorporate those improvements so that, again, it's a very welcoming experience as you're coming up to the museum. Also, the idea of the family gallery kind of took off with some groups. People are very excited that we were going to be doing it, which we are too. But they're like, you know, it's a good space, but can you do more? Can you expand it somehow? Interior wise, it's kind of already spoken for with our exhibit spaces. And when we do the Goddard exhibit, I'm hoping to expand that out a little bit. But what we started talking about was, could we add some sort of outdoor element, courtyard near the planetarium, that we could expand our educational experience to the outdoor arena. So I just threw in a few images just to kind of get you guys thinking. But this is a museum out of Georgia. They had recently done a family area, and this is for activities. Right now, they don't have a ton of program in there. It had just opened at the time. But you can see how it's kind of cool, that activity space in the middle there, and then the kids' projects are hanging from these kind of mobile types of things from the ceiling. Those color wheels are interactive, and you can play with those. This is from the Smithsonian. Here they incorporated collection items into their makerspace to have that direct connection. I was like, that's kind of cool idea.
When we've talked, because the Goddard has so much crammed into it that it
Oh,
we
yeah.
need to expand it. But then if some of that, some of it's duplicate stuff that's in there could go into that as.
But, and also I didn't mention this, but I want it to be a changing space. And that's kind of my vision. You know, we have to get other people's vision too, but we want to make it something that changes like every 6 months, has different activities, different workshops. So sometimes it might be Goddard, sometimes it might be related to some other art types of things. But, you know, what are we going to do in the space? Is it allowed to be a messy space? Does it have to be clean things? We'll have a digital element. So these are things to consider.
I like the interactive part of it.
Oh, definitely.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
And then this is from a group I was talking to out of Ohio. That's an exhibits design firm, but they also do facilities like this. But how do we conceive of our facade? Like, what can we do with that bridge? Can there be some public art component to it? You know, I like to dream big and see where it goes. So this is something to think about here. And this is not exactly our museum, right? But if we think about, you know, the landscaping, how does the landscaping address our experience as we're coming up to the museum? How do you integrate the plantings into the hardscaping, into, in the case of the bridge, you know, as you come up to the doors? So it's kind of a fun image. And then thinking about the outdoors and expanded learning experiences, this is a think tank science garden out of the UK. Is there something, again, that we could do in the courtyard, expand the courtyard? There's a bunch of grass back there that we hate mowing. Something near the planetarium entrance that we can incorporate some interactive elements that can expand that educational experience. So I see this is breaking into two phases. The first one is with our store lobby and kind of the vestibule area. But the first thing we need to do is clarify our scope. How much do we want to do design charrettes with the community? Do we want to be talking about the family gallery yet? Does that just completely put on hold? We're going to have a project group with the staff. Are there working groups that we can invite, like board of trustee members? Some of you want to help with that. But can we bring together these working groups to help inform the design? We also need to revisit with the architects and exhibit design firm, because we do need indeed to update our cost estimate from 2019. We need to confirm a timeline. And also, since we will likely be working on the lobby and some of the entrance there, do we need to close for a period of time? If we close that side, do we do like we did in 2016, which was to use the north end as an entrance? Is that something we need to consider? And then from there, I think if, once we get the designs worked out, we can start looking into the engineering schematic and construction. Again, that's for the store lobby, the front entrance area. The phase 2 would be the family gallery. So once we move the museum store, we can close off that space. It has its own doors. We can put up some concept designs, on the wall saying coming soon, what have you. But we can close it off for as long as we need to allow us to regroup and develop a capital campaign. Our foundation, of course, would like to be involved in that component. Maybe there's a sponsor out there who would like to be involved. Maybe there's more state appropriations that can contribute towards it, but we can close that off and wait until we're ready for it. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And Joe, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
Well, and as you can tell, we received $340,000 in ICIP money for this. It will not
Do anything.
take care of either one of our phases by itself. We do intend, we'll be making the request, and I think that phase one, phase two, in order to get the money from the state at the 340, we had to phase out this project. That was one of the things that we talked about and established because we knew the opportunity was out there. We're anticipating phase one will run probably $700,000 to $800,000. If you look at back at what she had for the total scope of 1.2 million and everything. So we anticipate that we're not going to get out of that first phase without 700 to 800. So we'll be requesting on top of the 340 of utilizing the ICIP money, another 500,000 essentially to help close that gap for the phase one. And then what we're telling you that we will do is that when we get to the family gallery, we believe that one is instrumental in its own right, and that we do a capital campaign for that to do that portion. So the idea is to utilize some of our resources to get the snowball working, and then we come back around with the completion of that. So we believe that the American Rescue Plan funding can be utilized for this. There's also a zoo thing that we'll be talking about with the Leprino farmland experience and everything. So those are two of the ones that I would recommend highly to utilize some of those contributions from the federal government in order to help offset the cost of this. So that'd be the only thing I would add. So.
Okay, my question or comment, not really a question, since we were having such the discussion with the adult center and we have you connected over here to the visitor center and all of our stuff, is there a way that we can put handmade stuff from the adult center over into the store so they can utilize their quilt money, put a couple quilts, and that can go to the helping them pay for their.
I think there is, because right now we have one online presence out there for our storefront on the online. So if it is a museum related item, we're actually taking the funds that are generated from somebody buying that piece online, and it goes into the museum to support the museum. The zoo the same way. And so we divide that up on that one. And so what you're talking about is, the reverse direction of it. Yes, I think we can.
They don't have any way. Yeah, they don't have any way to sell their stuff at this point from the Roswell Adult Center. They do kill, just like the museum does kills.
Right.
The quilting, you don't do quilting, but it's a history item and it's art in itself.
I don't think there's anything wrong with incorporating that into the whole mix. The whole idea is to, is to champion Roswell.
But that betters you when you talk to these ladies over here saying, you can have that 50% of your income coming from the museum or whatever.
Yeah.
But first you gotta also realize that that's their product that they would have to, we can say, hey, we'll do this for you, but it's still not, the quilters, the quilt is their product. It's not the Roswell Adult Center's.
Unless they want to donate it for.
Unless
that's right.
Donating that. And that would be one of those things I think it'll work, but what you got to look at is we're not going to say, hey, we'll sell your stuff for you.
It will advertise the Roswell Adult Center.
Yes, it will.
You can tag them to that. This is a part of the Roswell Adult Center.
The nice thing was we could do it either way, though. They could donate the quilt to us for the purpose of selling for that, and then any value that's received on it goes back to wherever it came from. Or they can sell the quilt and provide the money as a donation into whatever that activity is. So either way works. And, and I think that is something that we can do as we continue classes at the museum as well, too. You do some of that anyway right now. I think with some of depending on what the class is and what they put together, there is some of this going on already. It's just probably not as visible as everybody would remember.
Once we have the new space, it's going to be much more focused on that contemporary art and craft. Again, from the local area, but also from the region as a whole. And for me, it's going to be a program. So it's a store. Yeah, there's a revenue, driver there, but it's also going to be a program and promotion for those artists and then the arts and culture that's created here. So,
and I just think that those activities, the lapis and all that will just fit into that perfectly because that's regional.
Yep.
That's what they do. And that would get the adult center very well advertised. Like they were saying here, they want more advertising.
Yep.
So. Kind of a two birds.
They don't get that many people through their doors.
That's not how you did that.
This item was on as a non-action because we're not far enough along. I think when we talk about the phase one, if we were to do this right, we really want to bring in a design firm to help us formalize the build. We don't want to just go out and just do a CES bid and say, this is what we're going to build. I think we want to walk through it a little bit more because some of these draft versions, we want to make sure that they're meeting everybody's expectation as well too. I mean, it's a very modern look. The layout itself is pretty good, but I know that we've already heard when other enthusiasts have seen some of these pictures, they've expressed interest in other, a little bit different concept. And so I think the overall features are good.
Modern for Roswell.
Yeah, it's pretty modern for that.
Yeah, so in our minds, we want to bring in somebody that can help pull that piece together as well as put together a true construction set of drawings for this so that we go out there the right way. We think it'll cost us a little more on the front end for it, but it will pay dividends in the long-term response on that. So this will be moving forward.
Well, and I appreciate it. I wanted it kind of on this just because we know we got the 340. I wanted it out there, you know, what we're looking for, the 344, because
well, hopefully this helps.
It does.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I've seen this design we worked through this, and I love the concept. I do like the concept of having an outdoor area to that family center. And
Which could be like phase 4 or something like that. Like, I think there's a lot we can build on.
go forward and go to the I think it was
The
the British one.
Yeah.
It was the fence that I really there.
It's a beautiful fence. Yeah, there's another angle I have of that too.
Yeah, and that's where I was like going, something like that would be really cool.
So much more inviting than the stucco railing that we have. Yeah.
Well, and or just straight red, you know, a metal fence, definitely better than a chain link, but what we have there now, in our outside, the rail, you know, the wrought iron fence is nice, but since it's an art museum,
You should have a little more creativity to it. Yep. All right.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thanks, Karen.
So, y'all have any questions? We don't have any. The rest of the staff here.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just real quick, Trent here today, he just gave me some quick bullet points on the status of the projects. The library, the epoxy grout is already in. All the partitions are already up. It's not an updated picture, but the partitions are up and the fixtures will start in next week. So he anticipates the project to be completed by early June. It'll be all opened up. Carpenter Park, real quick, emergency phone, video camera, and electrical are completed. And we're just pending some signage and inspection of the splash pad. And of course, he's coordinating that inspection with.
Hopefully we can get it done by weekend. So.
Well, I heard from Damien today as well too, is we are working on our certification for the Murphy part splash pad. And so, yeah, hopefully this one's coming really, really close behind it.
Watch it. I mean, if we got the paper today, this was the picture on the front page of the paper. I started thinking, you know, the one thing we don't have would be shade for at least one or two shade spots shading over the benches. Not every single one would need to, but I mean, for the 110,000 that we have left,
that's correct.
I'd be looking at.
And again, I was just going to say the same thing. There will be money left over, and that will be something that will be discussed.
Well, and it wouldn't hurt to save a little bit for repair.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every time we do a project like this, we don't put enough aside to repair. That's why our bicycle path is the way it is.
And if Councilor Best, the only thing is that the grant money has to be spent by a certain time frame, so we can't set it aside.
For
We have
too long.
That's correct. I mean, the only way we can get it reimbursed from the state is if we spend it on something and then get it reimbursed.
So here's a thought. We've already done the Murphy one for 2 years, 3 years now, something like that. What parts have we had to buy consistently? Filters, stuff like that, bank it.
And purchase some stuff.
Purchase it and bank it.
Sure. Yeah, we can look at that.
My opinion.
I still think we need some shade, a little shade over there to that.
Yeah, use
Whatever.
sunscreen. Let's go sell sunscreen.
And then finally, yeah, just really quick, the police evidence building, the roof is complete.
Nice.
This is a new fencing for their yard area for their, I guess, property, seized property. And the grading has already been, that is all new. And this is the veterans and the security and access underway on the police evidence building. And this is already out to bids for quotes. So we won't award it until probably the start of the new fiscal year, and the project will start in the new fiscal year.
So you can estimate those overhangs on the benches over at the.
Sure. Something similar.
Yeah, tell them you want an extra 2 or 3 more built over there and stick it to the McBride Museum and just saying.
That's it.
He said use an umbrella.
Exactly.
That's where we have a lot of parks. This big umbrella. I'm waiting for public comments and don't you leave.
Well, the comment is for you, man. You're in trouble.
All right, well, we're at public participation. Seeing there's no public participation, let's not. Go ahead. Larry.
Here goes Larry.
Larry Conley, 2815 Encanto Drive. In that I'm the youngest person in this room at the present time. I'd like to mention so many people left. The foundation, Senior Center Foundation. I've been coming to these meetings for 10 years. I've never even heard of that foundation. And I'm going to tell Carolyn that when I see her, but that's the problem. And I think that just like everything else, they get going. There are enough senior insurance companies like the Presbyterian that might come up with some donations. So that's my thought on that. Number 2, the parks. I am so damn tired of the ICIP or whatever it is. Who got the money for this one that we're going to do?
Carpenter Park?
What?
Yeah.
Got Carpenter?
Well, I got it for Carpenter and I got it for Chisholm.
Okay, for Carpenter Park. Who would the state?
Hurdle.
Hurdle.
Go get it.
How do we take these people and have discussions before so we can?
We argued.
He already did it. That's how he got it.
Well, and we are.
We didn't get enough money to do that.
Which one?
No.
For both of them, we asked for 200,000, but of course our engineering came in and used up 300,000, but we
are discussing with our legislators earlier and earlier about what our request is. So that's what's happening.
And I want to publicly say to Joe, congratulations on getting the money for the zoo for the farmland.
And we'll do a full report on that very soon.
Are you done with parks yet? Are you done?
I'm
with
never
parks?
done with parks. What are you talking about?
We don't need any more. Are you done? You got all you want. You got 2. So
We don't need any more, but we need work on all of them.
I have one other thing. At the last meeting that I attended, I threw out the idea of taking on the streets. We take 60%, give it to the south side boys, 40% to the north. And the year after, reverse it. The city gets, or the north gets 60, south gets 40. Then Lewis threw out an idea, which I thought was brilliant.
He has those every once in a while.
He already left.
I know. I've already told them. I think I would like to see us do that. And, I'm not sure, Juan, will we have to cut back the city or the the 4/10 or to what? 3/3?
3/12.
12.
Okay, so there is going to be the interstate money coming in.
Internet money?
Internet money.
Internet, and that'll probably come in January or sometime like that. Then can't we do a mid-year budget change and take some of that money and put it up so we can get the 4 months?
The answer is yes, they can do a mid-year budget adjustment.
Will we?
Direction.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's all
Join us tomorrow night.
I'm
There, be square.
I'll be there.
All right, well, I appreciate everybody and hanging out this long.
You didn't get money for the bathrooms.
I will not ever get money for bathrooms.
Why is that?
I was a part of tearing down Melinda's Park bathrooms. For a 3-month period, we can always have
Portable?
porta potties.
Fine.
Because you put a full building in there for 12 months and you got to make sure you're maintaining it and not being torn up and
Please.
and we had them at Melinda's Park and had to tear them out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of abuse that happens with them.
Yeah.
Okay, if you get all the stainless steel ones. Did East Side still get all theirs ripped up? Because that's what it was over there, stainless steel everything.
So,
Hey, Lisa, how are you?
611, we going home.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.